I don't know how to communicate with my partner. Please help. Hello guys, and welcome to the Happily Committed channel. My name is Danny and I am the head coach of the Happily Committed project. If this is your first time visiting the channel, then welcome. Make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button down below so that you can get informed anytime we put out new content, which is pretty frequently. And if you've already been part of the community and have already been on this channel for quite some time, then welcome back. We are talking about communication today. And look, I know that for a lot of people, the topic of communication can be incredibly boring. It's like, ugh, okay, yeah, we've heard it a million times over. But at the end of the day, communication is so important, particularly in a relationship. I mean, think about it. The reason for why the human species has survived so long on this earth has been because we were able to develop a heightened level of communication, the ability to understand one another and to express our needs and to set boundaries. You know, wars have started because of miscommunication and have ended because of productive communication. So to think that it's not something that is important in a relationship would be naive, to be quite honest. So if you are in a position where you just feel like you don't know the first thing about communicating, the fundamentals of communicating, how to communicate with your partner, and you're realizing that it's causing issues within your relationship, then you are watching the right video. Before I begin, there are going to be certain things that I talk about in this video that I will not be able to fully go into depth about, because if not, it would be like a 60-minute video, and who wants to watch a 60-minute video on YouTube? Totally understand. So I have actually created an incredible communication product that I am pulling information from, to be honest with you, to create this video. So if you want the full training, if you want to really know the ins and outs of communication, then I would highly recommend checking out that training. And to make your life easier, I will provide a link for you in the description box down below so that you can click on it and start your training right away. You can actually start to apply a lot of those things immediately, which is incredibly beneficial and helpful for you if you are finding that you are currently struggling. So without further ado, let us jump right into the fundamentals of communication, right? And what it means to communicate within a relationship. The first thing that I tell my clients all the time is you want to listen to understand and not to be right. I want to say that again. You are listening to understand. You're not listening to be right. So often I find that people in relationships, when there are issues, or if you're in an argument or you have unresolved conflict, it's because you're listening to be right. You want to prove your point. You want to get that person to understand your side and your perspective, but you're also not taking into account their side or their perspective. And look, I get it. I understand. It's kind of like the blame game cycle, right? And a lot of it stems from not feeling heard or understood or seen within the relationship. And therefore, you make it your mission to be seen, heard, and understood. But in that process, we ourselves stop learning how to listen. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about listening as well. So if you're cutting your partner off, if you're not allowing them to finish what they have to say, if you're already listening to what they're saying with the intention of trying to prove them wrong, then you're not truly listening. So being very self-aware of how you are applying that in the relationship, how you are actually showing up to a conversation. Are you actively trying to listen? Are you actively trying to empathize with them and put yourself in their shoes, and vice versa? Is your partner giving you the same level of respect and attention that you are to try to resolve conflict? So that's number one. Number two is exercising empathy. Empathy is so important in a relationship. Empathy is important in general, right? When we are interacting with people day to day, our coworkers, our bosses, our family, our friends, our relationship. Because if we do not have the ability to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, then we are approaching everything from a selfish perspective, essentially. We're only viewing things from our perspective. And there's no productive conversation that will ever come from you only seeing one side. A relationship is two-sided. A relationship is a two-way street. And if you're only looking at something from your perspective, it's possible that you're missing out on so many other things that could benefit you in regards to learning new things, adopting new beliefs or new perspectives. That's what helps us grow as individuals, and it helps us to grow together within a relationship. Your partner is not your enemy. Your partner is your support. Your partner is your best friend. Your partner is on your side. So stop looking at that person as public enemy number one and start to realize that you're both trying to achieve the same thing. You just want a happy, peaceful, and successful relationship. So take a step back. And if you're able to do that based on what I just said, surprise, you're looking at something from a different perspective and a different angle, which is the first step of practicing empathy. So again, number 2 is being empathetic, exercising empathy and putting yourself in your partner's shoes and vice versa. They should be doing the same thing for you. Number 3 is recognizing each other's triggers. What sets you off? What sets them off? What makes you upset? Right? So if, for example, leaving dishes in the sink is a trigger for your partner and you continue to do it, then of course the expectation is going to be that they are going to be upset and angry and mad. So if you are approaching it from well, I don't understand why they just don't accept the fact that I'm going to leave dishes in the sink, view it from, well, let me try to keep the dishes out of the sink for the next week or two and see if the dynamic changes, see if their behavior changes, see if their interaction changes. And if it does, then guess what? It's a compromise that you should be willing to make in order to have a peaceful relationship. Now, there are certain things, obviously, that I feel like may not necessarily be about you. So let's say you have a tendency of, I don't know, you like to do yoga and you do yoga every morning, but that triggers your partner because they feel like you're not spending enough time with them in the morning when you should be with them. That gets a little bit tricky because that's something that they are dealing with internally on their own, and it's an insecurity that they have. There may be some level of codependency there. There may be some insecurity there. And if that is affecting you, being able to do something for yourself that feels good, that refuels you, that, lifts up your spirits and is good for you in regards to your mental health, your emotional health, and all of those things, and they're trying to prevent you from doing that because their own personal triggers are affecting that, that's on them. But what I'm saying to you is the day in and day out stuff that you should be willing to compromise within the relationship that will help to reduce the amount of arguments, which then allows you guys to connect on a deeper level because you're not fighting against each other, you're working with one another. The fourth thing here is understanding the difference between a fair fight and an unfair fight. Now, this gets very complex. Well, let me clarify. It's not a complex, it's a pretty simple theory that is very applicable in any situation that involves an argument, but it's lengthy. So I'm not going to be able to cover all of that in this video, which is why I put the link for the communication product, because I cover all of that in that training. So just to briefly go over what a fair fight and an unfair fight is, right? Number 1, you cannot avoid fights. They will happen in a relationship no matter what. You can reduce the amount of fighting, but you're not going to be able to stop fights altogether. And the real question becomes, how do you navigate it and how do you manage those fights? And the difference between a fair fight and an unfair fight is this. So an example of a unfair fight would be your partner's been working all day long. It's been a 10-hour day, or maybe you've been working all day long. It's a 10-hour day, a 12-hour day. You're exhausted. You had to go to the grocery store to pick up some groceries and come back home. And the moment you walk through the door, your partner's already on you about something that they are frustrated or upset about. That is not fair because you do not have the energy or the emotional capacity to have the conversation in that moment. They may have been home all day, so they've had the time to really kind of recharge and think about things and build up the courage to have that conversation with you, but you're not in the right space mentally and emotionally to have that conversation. And usually what ensues is a huge argument because there are two people that are in totally two different headspaces trying to resolve an issue. So a fair fight would be acknowledging that that is an unfair interaction in that moment and saying, hey, look, we're both off this upcoming Saturday. Why don't we table this for the time being and have this conversation on Saturday? Because then at that point, the both of you have the opportunity to rest, think, prepare, and then have the conversation. Essentially, that is the basics of a fair fight and an unfair fight. Two people have to be emotionally and mentally capable of having a conversation or an argument, a more serious argument, in order to try to resolve the conflict or the issue, or else you're going to just kind of go in this merry-go-round and it's going to continue to come up in the relationship over and over and over again, and it's just going to build resentment and frustration. And the last thing here is speak to your partner with respect. No matter what the circumstance is, no matter how angry you may be, no matter how upset you may be, there is never any reason for you to speak down to your partner, for you to cuss your partner out, for you to make them feel less than. And if you are doing that, it is very important for you to take a step back and ask yourself why. Is it them or is it you? Is it something that you are internally dealing with that is coming out in that way? If your partner is treating you that way, same thing. It's important to reflect. Why are they acting that way? And are you able to have a conversation with them to point that out in order to really kind of start to unpack and move past those things? Now, I understand how difficult and complex that can be, which is why I usually always recommend a one-on-one coaching session, because it can be incredibly helpful to help you gain new perspective, to bounce ideas off one another, and to strategize how to move forward in building healthy communication. So if you are unaware of communication, these are just some tips, some things to be on the lookout for, just a small little foundational list that you will need to have a happy and healthy and sustainable relationship. But like I said, that communication training will cover everything that you need to know. And if you still have more questions, I am more than happy to support you through that process. I will also put a link in the description box down below for a one-on-one coaching session. Just click on it. It'll take you to our coaching page and you can book your session right away, and we can start working on the things that you need to work on. Please make sure you're leaving a comment down below. Any questions that you may have, if you feel like I left something out, if you enjoyed the content, whatever it is, let me know. This channel, this community was built for you, so your words and your thoughts matter. Maybe you just want to know a little bit more. So if you do, I would recommend going to our website, www.happilycommitted.com. We have articles and blogs and videos at your fingertips. Again, my name is Danny. I'm your life and relationship coach. I hope you're staying happy and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.